window. Both hands out the window. Stick both hands out the window.
It said hearing impaired on the thing.
It says hearing impaired.
It's like death.
My dad is one of my most favorite people on this earth because he is gentle and kind, and it's genuine.
My name is Pearson Jr.
Do you have a name sign?
Pearl. And I love jokes. I love making people laugh. My brain was damaged from all of the blows. I had been hit and I almost blacked out. My eyes were damaged. It was difficult for me to breathe. You know, I was trying to tell them to stop. I was choked up, I couldn't breathe. My head, I was dizzy because of the trauma that was happening. I curled over in the fetal position just trying to make it stop. Before that, I had gone to a Deaf Coffee event at Starbucks. And they closed at 10, and I left about 9:30. I said bye to everybody, and I left. And we were driving. And then there were some police lights behind me. I didn't know where we were going, so I pulled over, and the police pulled up behind me. I have a placard in my car that explains that I'm deaf and that I have communication needs, so I was getting ready to get that. I had my hands on the wheel, and the policeman came up with his gun drawn around the side of the car. And I rolled down the window, and the police started talking to me. And I pointed my ear to say, I'm deaf, just a second. And I was going to reach for that paper, that placard that I had that explains I'm deaf. And when I reached down, his fist came through the window. And then his other hand grabbed my wrist.
Get out the phone. Get out the phone. Who's resisting? Who's resisting?
When they pulled his arm like that, it dislocated his shoulder. So at that moment, before he even got out of the vehicle, his right arm is completely out of socket.
So they finally got the door open and got the seatbelt off and pulled me out onto the ground, and then were beating me. And the police say that it was 7 minutes, but it really felt more like 10 or 15.
They at one point had him in a chokehold. We learned that he had a concussion. My dad believed that he would die and that he was going to die.
Give us your hands. Give us your hands.
I was yelling, I'm deaf, and I was angry and I was upset, trying to make them understand. And I tried to talk and I tried to tell them, but they kept beating me, they kept hitting. And so I just had to go back into a fetal position. I was screaming.
You can't follow commands if you can't hear them. You can't put your arms behind your back when you've got one arm dislocated and hanging out and the muscles that are attached to it torn. It's not physically possible to do that.
Hey, you know why he was resisting you? Because he was trying to grab this car.
Oh, that's what it was.
I knew it. His face is jacked up.
Hey, make sure in your report you put that there was nothing identifying him deaf whatsoever.
Right.
On the outside or inside.
Right.
That was in the side pocket, and he never said Got it.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
I wanted to just cry, but we had work to do, and I needed to hold it together. His eyes were swollen, and it was like blood. He would have been looking at the possibility of losing his eyesight. You know, he already, doesn't have his access to hearing things, and to lose his eyesight too would be just, I don't even know how to say it. So, my dad, like I said, is the nicest, most fun, gentle guy. And I didn't understand how this could be done to him. This thing has happened to other deaf individuals in other states, and there have been others that have ultimately died.
Oklahoma City 911, what's the address to your emergency?
Yes, ma'am. We heard about 10, 11 gunshots go off about 57th.
Police officer shot and killed a deaf man in Oklahoma City. 35-year-old Magdiel Sanchez
was shot and killed in his front yard.
And they were at his home investigating a hit-and-run crash involving his father.
Neighbors say besides being hearing impaired, he was also mentally impaired.
We won't be able to understand police violence in this day and age if we don't understand the connections that exist between race and disability-based discriminations. Law enforcement said he had taken a very threatening posture and that he was about to use his walking stick in some sort of harmful manner. The video that is complete seems to contradict that story. Based on the footage provided by community members, Magdiel Sanchez was actually retreating from law enforcement. And this completely contradicts law enforcement's story about what occurred.
The neighbors are saying that they can't hear.
Oh, they can't hear?
Deaf, I guess.
Several people mentioned that they had eye contact with law enforcement when they told law enforcement that he was deaf and that he could not hear them, and that law enforcement still went ahead and shot and tased him.
Lieutenant Lindsay and Officer Barnes's actions were lawful, reasonable, and not excessive. You don't need to hear to know what these officers are saying to you. I've authorized felony charges on the father of Mr. Sanchez for the felony hit and run for leaving the scene of an injury accident. He also did not have a driver's license, and he was not insured, so he'll be charged with all of those crimes.
Dad did not learn ASL, American Sign Language, until he eventually ended up at the Oklahoma School for the Deaf after it was desegregated.
Due to segregation of education systems, there were full sign languages developed in Black deaf communities all around the nation.
I have to believe that law enforcement officers in general are trying to do the right thing. My husband's in law enforcement, my brother's in law enforcement. It's really frustrating to realize that not all truth is brought forward. That dash cam video that everybody has seen in the media is from that first car. Well, there's a second car that has dash cam video that should have captured what the police actually did. We have been told that the trooper that was in that second car turned the dash cam video off.
I'm kind of hesitant now to roll down my window all the way with the police. I might crack it and put the sign that says that I'm deaf there, but I don't want to roll down my window all the way anymore.
There's a fear for sure that this might happen again, and it shouldn't. It should never happen again. There needs to be training, there needs to be education. I mean, so there's just no excuse for it in this day and age.
Police need to understand what being deaf means. When we move our hands, it's not a threat. It's signing, it's how we communicate. I wish that they understood that and that wouldn't cause them to panic.